Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? It's your boy Dre, and today we're going to be going over Mono Blue Spirits in Pioneer. Now, Mono Blue is a deck that's been picking up a little bit of steam lately, and all manner of Spirits decks have been making top 8s in relevant Pioneer tournaments. We've seen Bant Spirits running around, we've seen a couple of people getting in places with Blue-White Spirits, and we've seen plenty of people not only top 8ing events, but also getting trophies with Mono Blue Spirits, and this is going to be the one that we haven't really touched too much on in a while. We have touched a similar list with Curious Possessions when we played Dimir Spirits about a month or two back. And we've even played some Bant Spirits, which, well, some of y'all know how I feel about Collect the Company, but the deck is good. And now, we're going to go investigate Mono Blue Spirits, which is one of my favorite builds. Here, we've got a lot of the usual culprits, a bunch of 1-drops, including Mausoleum Wanderer and Spectral Sailor, but also the Snow build gets to play Ascendant Spirit. We've got good 2-drops in Rattle Chains and Supreme Phantom, and we've got great counterspells in Geistlight Snare, Spell Pierce, and 2 copies of Lofty Denial. Rounding out the rest of what's happening here are going to be 2 copies of Brazen Borrower and a full 4 copies of Spectral Adversary. And the reason we want these 2 specific creatures here is because we're playing a counterspell based game in which we want to keep our mana up all the time. Keeping up 2 mana does a lot of things for us in this deck. It lets us keep up either Lofty Denial or Geistlight Snare. It lets us keep up the level 1 activation of Ascendant Spirit. We get to keep up Spectral Adversary or the Petty Theft half of Brazen Borrower. Once we start getting into the 3 mana territory, that's when we get to have all kinds of actions, including Rattle Chains plus something else. We can Geistlight Snare plus something else. We can play Brazen Borrower as a creature. There's a lot of things that this deck has the freedom to do once we get a couple of lands and our opponent's not really breathing down our back. Our mana base is also ridiculously simple. We've got 20 snow-covered islands and 2 copies of Faceless Haven. Also, I don't know if y'all have peeped the secret lairs, but we've got these sweet 8-bit pixel snow-covered lands coming out in, I want to say, April, and I'm fully aware that these things are going to be like 10 to 15 bucks a piece in non-foil, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure I care. I think I'm going to get a giant brick of them. So if y'all see me playing an IRL Pioneer event in the next year or so and I'm playing Mono Blue Snow, just know that I'm a madman in advance and I'm not sorry for it. So yeah, that's our TED Talk about those lands. But also 2 copies of Faceless Haven. Now, there are a lot of builds running around with a full 4 copies of Faceless Haven, and while Faceless Haven is a really powerful land, my experience has been that I'll sometimes draw like 1 island and 2, maybe even 3 Faceless Havens, and I'm still unable to double spell because I need more blue sources that I have access to. So I've reduced the number of Faceless Haven and I've increased the number of snow-covered island to make a more kind of cut and dry mana base. We get more stability at the expense of a little less power, and honestly I'm pretty comfortable making that trade. As y'all see by the fact that I usually play Blue-White Spirits and not Bant, I always favor stability over a little extra power because stability means that we can play Magic more often, and really that's all we ask most of the time. Out of the sideboard, we've got some old tricks and new tricks. We've got 4 copies of Bind a Monster, which we have played before, but there's also a lot of things that Bind a Monster does for us specifically. It taps down a lot of really cheap creatures against the mono red, the white/X decks that are usually like human-based creature things, and the Gifted Aetherborns out of vampires. But also, Bind a Monster is an enchantment, which means that it actually plays really nicely with Geistlight Snare. If you have just a spirit like a Mausoleum Wanderer and a Binds a Monster that's an enchantment, remember that your Geistlight Snares are only going to cost 1 mana. So that's why we wanted to specifically choose an enchantment as our 1 mana removal of choice here. We've got 2 copies of Aether Gust, which are going to be pretty multifaceted here. Aether Gust is really good against things like Winota, any of the big green decks. It's decent against mono red burn, and we kind of need to help against all of those things, so Aether Gust is pretty sweet as a 2-of in this build. We're also playing 2 copies of Negate. Negate helps with a lot of the combo decks and control decks, and there are plenty of both. So if you're facing down something like, I don't know, Lotus Field combo, blue-black control, blue-white control, Jeskai Ascendancy combo, just know that Negate has a lot of jobs there, as do the full 4 copies of Mystical Dispute. But Mystical Dispute has the upside of being really good in the Spirits Mirror. And remember what I just said about a bunch of Spirits players actually making top 8s of relevant events. This is going to be a deck that you're going to need to be prepared for. So if your opponent is in the middle of trying to resolve like a Shacklegeist, just know that Mystical Dispute has your back. We've got 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, and these are going to be primarily for decks like Winota, but these do have a lot of other jobs, like Black-Red Arcanist plays a lot of things out of their graveyard. There's miscellaneous Lurrus decks running around. Winota's Trigger is an absolute nightmare to deal with, and Grafdigger's Cage does solve all of those problems. And we've got a 1 of Icon of Ancestry, which is a card that has seen play in mono blue lately, but no other Spirits build, so we'll check this out. So as it enters the battlefield for 3 mana, choose a creature type, and of course we're choosing Spirits. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. You pay 3, you tap this thing, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, you can reveal a creature card of the chosen type among them and put them in your hand, everything else goes to the bottom. So when you have this thing out, it's already an extra lord effect, which is pretty sweet. But at the end of your opponent's turn, when you're holding up things like Counterspell mana already, now your opponent's not going to know whether you want to use Ascendant Spirit's abilities. They don't know whether you're holding a Counterspell. They don't know whether you're drawing a card with Spectral Sailor. They don't know whether you're holding up a Spectral Adversary. And now they don't know whether you want to use Icon of Ancestry's effect. So just adding 1 more potential form of card advantage at instant speed is going to be just a super sweet thing for your opponent to have to deal with. I don't like it quite enough to include it into the main deck, but I think it's a really good one-up out of the sideboard against a lot of decks, especially decks like blue-white and blue-black that otherwise don't play too much artifact removal. But that's going to be our deck for today. So what we're going to do now is have a little bit of discussion. We're going to go over some questions, and then I'll see y'all for round 1. Also, spoiler season. So Neon Kamigawa is going to be coming out in, today's the 1st as of this recording, so like 3 weeks from now, something like that. And that means that a lot of people are going to be really excited about this set. You know, there's a lot of cool ninjas. There's a lot of like neon stuff everywhere. We always like going back to the world of Kamigawa, at least in discussion, but now in reality, there's a lot of really cool things happening. And now that the set is finally here, we've seen some cool cards. A lot of what people are talking about too is the fact that there were a bunch of spirits in the first Kamigawa. So are there going to be a bunch of playable spirits in this Kamigawa? And so far, honestly, not really. But we got a lot of cards that could play around with us anyway. And a few cards that are like spirits adjacent, or at least very helpful for us. So the first thing I'm actually going to pull up here is going to be Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa. And this is going to be 3 and a white for a 3/3 flash flyer. So it's already kind of on brand, right? That's the exact same stat line as Subtlety, which I've been trying to play in my sideboard for a while now. And when this thing enters the battlefield, another target permanent gains indestructible as long as you control Kyodai. So I think that's already like a pretty decent effect, right? It's basically like a permanent Self-a-Spirit effect. And then for Wooburg, you can give it +5s until end of turn, but like we don't make Wooburg, so who cares? And I think the real winners of this card are actually not Tempo Spirits players in constructed formats. I think the biggest winners from Kyodai are actually going to be the Commander players who have a cool Flash Flying Spirit effect that also gives them a Wooburg color commander that they can use. And I'm pretty sure that's how that works, right? Because the ability has Wooburg in the cost, so it's printed on the card. That means that if your commander is Kyodai, you get to actually use all 5 colors in your deck. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm like 90% sure I'm right on that. But either way, even if that's not how it works, if you're playing some sweet commander that you don't want to die to a bunch of sweepers and stuff, then you can just like play Kyodai at an instant speed indestructible thing and like, you know, save your commander from some BS that your opponents might be trying to do to it. So that's pretty cool. You get like a bunch of instant speed interaction too. So not the worst. I don't think we'll be playing it, but overall, not the worst. So next up for us is going to be a sweet piece of graveyard hate, and this is going to be Lion Sash. So it's a 1/1 creature on its own. You can pay white to exile a card from a graveyard, and if it was a permanent card, you get a +1 counter on Lion Sash. So that's going to be like a side grade to Scavenging Ooze, because Scavenging Ooze specifically requires a creature to be exiled to get a counter, but you also gain a life from Scavenging Ooze. Here, you don't get the life gain, but you're much more likely to get a +1 counter. So there's kind of your trade-off with Scavenging Ooze. Also, you can reconfigure too to make Lion Sash an equipment and put it onto a creature, and that's really big game too. So like, if you're playing against something that say plays sweepers, then you don't necessarily want to worry about those, and you can just equip Lion Sash to a creature. Or if you're playing like, I don't know, say a format like Legacy, and you're playing Lion Sash, then you don't want to worry about like creature removal actually hitting this thing. So you're able to just like dodge, for example, Swords to Plowshares, and you can just equip it to a creature. Granted, there's basically no universe in which a graveyard deck is playing Swords to Plowshares, but you know, the example is there. I think this will be a pretty decent piece of graveyard removal for a format like, say, Pioneer. I don't think this is really Modern or Legacy playable, but I think this is at least worth exploring in Pioneer. Probably not in Spirits, because I don't know that we really have that kind of time to be exiling cards from graveyards for a ground pounder and not a flyer. But I think this is going to be a card that ends up finding its way to getting explored by somebody. We'll see. I don't know. It's playable with Lurrus, which is always really good at the very least. Next up on our list here is going to be Moon Circuit Hacker. And this card has a lot of discussion rolling around it. So in a deck like Pioneer Mono Blue Spirits, the biggest application for this is that you get to go ahead and have an enchantment creature which plays really nicely with Geistlight Snare. And you can go ahead and rinse and reuse your things like Rattle Chains to re-protect your creatures, or Spectral Adversary if you're playing that, so that you can use the kicker ability more than once, stuff like that. In a deck like Modern Spirits, you can again use Rattle Chains to rinse and reuse your stuff, but you can also rebuy cards like Spell Queller and Skyclave Apparition so that you can make use of their effects more than once as well. And that's pretty cool. So Moon Circuit Hacker, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can straight up draw a card. And if it is not the same turn it came into play, after you draw a card, you then have to discard a card. But for the very first time, you just draw a card. So this card is already pretty absurd with flyers. Which brings me to the reason this card's getting so much discussion. I don't know if y'all looked at the middle of this thing, but Moon Circuit Hacker is a common, which means this thing is going to be Pauper legal. And Pauper already makes great use of ninjutsu creatures, so they are already playing cards like Spellstutter Sprite and Muldrifter in that format to let cards like Ninja of the Deep Hours rinse and reuse those enter the battlefield effects. So Spellstutter Sprite basically reads counter target spell in that format, and Muldrifter is a very common creature. Just drawing 2 is a really absurd effect because that format is relatively slow and really grindy. So a Moon Circuit Hacker type effect that can let you rebuy these great value creatures that have flying, so they're already hard to block, and then getting to rinse and reuse those enter the battlefield effects is super dope. Like, there's already a bunch of decks playing Ephemerate because of how good these grindy value things are. And the fact that this not only lets you rebuy those things, but also just straight up draws you a card the first turn and then loots every turn thereafter is really absurd. I'm not being funny when I say Moon Circuit Hacker might not make it to 2023 in Pauper. I honestly think this card's that good. The decks are already playing cards like Fairy Seer, Fairy Miscreant, to make sure that Ninja of the Deep Hours can go ahead and hit, and that costs 2 to ninjutsu in, so that's taking you off of all other interaction. You don't get to play Ponder, Counter Spell, Spell Pierce, anything like that on turn 2 when you just cast ninjutsu in Ninja of the Deep Hours. With Moon Circuit Hacker, you get to draw a card on that first turn and hold up interaction, because 1 mana is just so much different from 2, as we all know. Again, I don't know that this card makes it 2023, but we'll see. Next up on our list here, we are going to be taking a look at Boseiju, Who Endures. That's my look at Boseiju. 45 million people are going to be talking about this card. I will move right on to the next one. Again, everybody's going to be talking about this card, so you will hear plenty about it. Just know that it is busted. Next up is going to be March of Otherworldly Light. So This thing I think is actually pretty good. So it's going to be an X spell, X and a white, exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. And I think this card's actually pretty good. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you can exile any number of white cards from your hand too. And for every white card you exile from your hand, you can make X2 more. So if you want to exile something with exactly CMC 0, you can go ahead and pay just a white. CMC 1, you pay 1 and a white. CMC 3, you exile 1 card, so on and so forth. And I think this is going to have a pretty good application, specifically in Modern. I don't know that this card makes Pioneer, at least for us, over something that always costs 1, like Portable Hole, or is instant speed. But in Modern, I actively love this card because mana value 0 hits both Karnstructs and Urza Saga itself, because Urza Saga is an enchantment. It says nothing about non-land. So you can go ahead and you just pay a white and get rid of their Urza Saga and make that part of their plan suck. You can pay 1 and a white and get rid of a bunch of good 1-drops. So you can get rid of things like Ragvens and Darcy's and Death Shadows and stuff like that. And that'll make it so that you also can dodge your own copies of, Chalice of the Void if you're playing those. So you can play a Chalice on 1, and if you're paying 2 mana for March of Otherworldly Light, you can just get rid of their existing 1-drops, not have to worry about Chalice countering your own stuff, and still, know that they don't get to play any more 1-drops because you have a Chalice on board. So that's going to be pretty dope. And I think this card is going to be a little better for us than Prismatic Ending, because Prismatic Ending can't just kill a Saga, and a lot of the problems that we actively care about cost 0 and 1 anyway. So if we're already paying up to 2 mana to solve most problems, then having that effect at instant speed for specifically us is probably a little better than something like Prismatic Ending would be. Overall, Prismatic Ending is still super busted and will definitely see more play than March of Otherworldly Light in other decks, but I think our deck makes the most use of something that can be an instant. So yeah, I'm looking forward to at least trying this out and seeing if that ends up actually being true in practice. Next up for us, so we've got Otawara, City Above Clouds, and this is going to be a land that I am a pretty big fan of. So it's just a legendary land, and you can tap to add blue to your mana pool, and that's already pretty good, right? Like, you can tell you're going to get some utility out of these things because you are not actually taking life to, get your colors or anything like that. But it's got an ability, Channel. You can pay 3 and a blue, discard this thing, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And this ability also costs 1 less for every legendary creature you have. Granted, we don't play that many, unless, of course, you're playing Thali in your Modern list. But that aside, we don't really play too many legends, so that's kind of whatever. Anyway, you get to have a sweet utility land, and I think the first one is pretty close to free too, like to just include in your deck. Like, for example, my Modern list is already playing 4 copies of Hallowed Fountain. You can totally take that down to 3 Hallowed Fountains and 1 Otawara. And if you see Otawara in your opening hand, okay, cool, it's a land that doesn't cost you life. If you see it late and you have a bunch of lands in hand, great, it's a removal spell. So this is going to be super sick either way. And the best part about the channel thing is that it gets around all kinds of crap that would otherwise worry about spells. So if your opponent is in Pioneer and they're playing Shark Typhoons, they cycle out a Shark Typhoon, and now in your main deck you have a good way to just get rid of that Shark Typhoon token that they can't interact with via counter spells. In Modern, if they have the interaction of play Teferi 3, tick up, normally you would have nothing smart to say about that Teferi, but channeling is not casting a spell. So if they tick Teferi up to 5, maybe dodge your attacks, you just go, okay, cool, discard Otawara, put Teferi back in your hand, untap, have a whole handful of maybe interaction. Now your plan sucks. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do to opponents with cards like Otawara. So I'm really excited to try at least 1, maybe 2 in my Modern list, and probably some in Pioneer as well. Okay, definitely some in Pioneer as well. There is also a white one. There's actually one of each color. We already talked about Boseiju. And the white one is the exact same thing, except for 2 in a white. The land will channel and it'll deal 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. It also gets the same cost reduction thing where it gets -1 for every legendary creature you have. I think that card is also playable, and I will probably play one of each in Modern. In Blue, White, Spirits, and Pioneer, I will definitely play one of each. Like, it's basically free to include. And I will probably try to play a second Otawara in at least one list at some point in time. But I think I'm going to start off with one of each. Maybe 2 Otawaras in one of the white one. We'll see. But either way, they're relatively free includes. And the only real cost is the fact that they're non-basic, so they don't play nicely with things like Blood Moon in Modern. And if you play more than one of these, then you do run the risk of drawing both early. So maybe your land drops might be compromised by the fact that you drew 2 of the same legendary land early. That can suck. And the only other real downside to a card like Otawara is that in mono blue spirits, because you're running Ascendant Spirit and Faceless Haven, you do want all of your lands to actually be snow. And these are not snow lands. So if you're playing 2 of those, then there is a real cost to drawing them early, because now you can't pump Ascendant Spirits or use them as costs to pay for the 3 that Faceless Haven requires. That might be a thing that ends up coming up, so just be careful about how many you put in your decks. But other than those points, I think these cards are really good for us. I mean, honestly, they're going to be pretty great for everybody, but especially good for us in the blue one, and relatively good for us in the case of the white one. And the last card I'm going to talk about here is going to be the Wandering Emperor. And I think this is going to be a card that I will try to play, but will ultimately not be good. But I'm probably still going to try to play it. So she's going to be a 4 mana, 3 loyalty planeswalker, and she's got flash. As long as she entered the battlefield this turn, she can activate her loyalty abilities as instant. So you can flash her in, activate her right then and there, and just be awesome at life. You +1, you put a +1 counter on a creature, and it gets first strike until end of turn, so that's pretty cool. -1, you get a 2/2 with vigilance, and -2, you exile tap creature and you gain 2 life, which is super good against any kind of aggressive decks, right? So like, if they're attacking into you with whatever, you can +1 and give your creature first strike. If you want to actually get into the combat part of things, you can -1 to just like make a creature with vigilance if you're playing against a control deck or something else that gets grindy with you, or -2 if you're trying to remove something really big, like say a Death Shadow. So all 3 of these modes I think are actually going to be pretty good, and I don't know that this card will actually end up being good, but I am really looking forward to trying it. I think I'm going to try to play 2 probably in like Blue White Spirits or something, and realistically I don't think she'll be that good, but I'm going to try it. And y'all will probably watch me lose with this card more than once, and I don't think I'll care because I like it. And the last thing I want to show y'all is going to be a secret lair. So this has nothing to do with Neon Kamigawa, but look at these things. Look at them. They're so sick. So these are going to be like these 8-bit snow-covered islands, and they remind me a lot of like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger from like the mid-90s when everything was either 8-bit or 16-bit art. And I don't know, this is like a sweet piece of my childhood. And since they're a secret lair and they're snow covered, I am fully aware that these things are going to be like anywhere between 12, 15, maybe even $20 non-foil a piece. And of course, Mono Blue Spirits runs a crap ton of snow covered island. With that said, I don't know that I care. I think I want them anyway. So if y'all see me at an IRL tournament and I'm playing with a bunch of basics and that pile of basics is like 4 times the price of my deck, shut up, mind your business. I don't care. I want them. So I'm going to be looking really forward to getting these. They look great. The purple backdrop is great. And I don't know if any of y'all happen to know, but purple's like my favorite color anyway. I really love stuff with purple in it. And these are ridiculous, and I love them, and I want them, and I'm going to get a pile of them. So I'm looking forward to playing, hopefully, a lot of Pioneer IRL with these. Depending on whatever happens with like Star City or any other tournament series that tries to run IRL Pauper Pioneer tournaments,
I'm gonna look really forward to playing these. I'm hoping that I really want them to be like $10, but I don't think that's realistic, especially for the islands. I think I'm gonna end up paying like $15 a piece for them, but I don't care. Fuck it, I'm getting them. So I don't know. Look forward to seeing them when I get them. Yo, we got round one. Yo, nice. So Andy Leclerc, that's great. So he's actually somebody I know. He's from my hometown. That's hilarious. Yo. So, oh man, this is perfect. So Andy's like one of my young Magic kids. Says I'm about to crush you in the chat. All right, so we'll go ahead and take some mulligan. We are going to keep our one lander. We've got a couple of 1-drops to go with the Curious Obsession. And let's see. Be ready to eat those words. And plays a Rogren Triumph and passes. So we drew the other land to go along with it, so life is pretty great for just us, I'm hoping. And let's see what he cooks up here. So this could just be like Jeskai Ascendancy, in which case we need to draw a counterspell to actually be like really good here. But as it stands, I'm fine just playing a Spectral Sailor and being pretty happy about it. So let's see if this is some kind of sorcery speed interaction. I'm sorry, instant speed interaction here. If it is, great. If not, I'm just gonna hold up Rattle Chains. So here, I'm just going to go ahead, attack for 1. I'm not going to Curious Obsession. And end of turn, what we can do is just go ahead and play a Spectral Adversary, assuming he plays something we don't care about. Whether this gets a force or something else will tell us everything. A Swamp? Are we just like Niv Mizzet plus Yorion? That's fairly likely. So now, let's see. Another Fabled Passage, okay. So this is going to be where a card like Spectral Adversary comes in handy here, because I can just like present an additional threat without actually having to deploy something I care a little more about. So this is pretty nice. So I'm going to be done here. We get to untap, and if I draw a land, great, I can Curious Obsession and hold up Rattle Chains. If it's not, that's fine. This is a land. A land would be great. A land would actually be wonderful here. Because like we don't have any counter spells in hand right yet, so drawing a counter spell would be actually fantastic. Ascendant Spirit, not exactly what I wanted, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the Wanderer first, so that I have a higher chance of drawing. A higher chance of being able to protect my Spectral Sailor from a spell. So now he's not gonna get to like respond with any instant speed interaction to the Spectral Sailor. But I do have the option to draw into a counterspell here. So let's see if that's what happens. Oh, we got a land drop. And do I want to play into a Rattle Chains? I'm sorry, into a Sweeper? I think the answer is actually yes. So let's just do that. And then we'll pass here. So my Spectral Sailor is pretty likely to just die, but we already have things going on. The Celestis, oh, that's fine. I mean, a little annoying, but honestly, if this is just like a Fatal Push, then I'll be pretty happy to just protect it with the Mausoleum Wanderer. And if I can draw a counterspell here, I will be a very, very happy me. Okay, so let's go ahead and attack here. Draw a counterspell. Not quite. So do I want to make him just recast the Celestis? And I think the answer is no. What are things that could happen here? Actually, yes, I will make you recast the Celestis. So now if he's stuck on a 4th land, we're pretty far away from getting access to, okay, that's fine. Pretty far away from getting access to any kind of Bring to Light type sweepers. Here, I'm going to get to attack, and hopefully I can just draw a counterspell, because we've got 8 in the deck. Spectral Adversary is not a counterspell. Going to Knight does let them use a sweeper. I think playing Spectral Sailor to prevent a loot from the Celestis is actually worth here, because we're both not really doing anything too worth, and I don't think this is the turn where I want to be using Braves and Borrow on the Celestis, since he actually did hit the land drop. So now we've got 6 lands up, and this means that Bring to Light is an option, or, oh god, is this Culling Ritual?
Oh, Tolsimir. Well, that's actually fine. So what's going to happen here is that he's going to go ahead and try to fight my Spectral Sailor with the Wolf, but the Wolf, I could just go ahead and bounce it with Brazen Bower, but it's actually more worth to protect with Rattle Chains here. So there's no life gain, there's no shenanigans. I just get to untap and go ahead and attack for 5. And still not a counterspell, but I can attack for a total of 5 as it stands, 6, 7, 8 if I were to play Supreme Phantom, but I don't want to do any of that. Instead, I just want to go ahead, attack with my flyers, take them down to 6, and I've got a relatively cushy deal going on here. That's actually not even bad either, the 4th land here. So the 4th land lets me play 2 threats. I can Brazen Bower plus Spectral Adversary, or if he plays something I super care about like a flyer, I can Spectral Adversary and kick it. So there's a lot of good stuff happening here. So he will get to go ahead and loot and go up to 7. So we're just playing a whole lot of like just really good stuff here. So is this a Bring to Light? This is a Bring to Light. Okay. I'm not a fan of that happening, but I can't do anything about it either. So I guess we'll just kind of take our lumps there. And by take our lumps, I really just mean I hope they cast Supreme Verdict, but don't have a copy of Fatal Push in hand for the Celestis. Shadow's Verdict, that's fine. So what's going to end up happening here is Shadow's Verdict is still going on the stack. And now I get to go Mausoleum Wanderer at instant speed here into another copy of Spectral Adversary, and now Mausoleum Wanderer is going to be a 2-power thing. So he goes ahead and scoops to that. The alternate route was for him to go Bring to Light into Supreme Verdict. If Supreme Verdict were to go off, then we would still have had access to Rattle Chains plus Spectral Adversary, untap, activate Faceless Haven, and that's 8 damage. So either way, that base was covered, and yeah, let's slide into round 2. So against Niv to Light stuff, we get to have Aether Gust, Negates, and Mystical Dispute is relatively good, but in my experience, we don't necessarily need all 4. First, let's look for cards to take out. Ascended Spear is actually the worst of the bunch here, because they usually play some number of Paradise Druid and or what's the other one? Sylvan Caryatid. So them having access to ground pounding blockers makes Ascendant Spirit actually pretty bad here. But I'll be more than glad to just have more copies of counterspells. So we want +2 negate, +2 gust, -4 Ascendant Spirit. And let's take these out. So this time we would like to see more than 1 land in our opener, which we have. And for what it's worth, this is actually pretty good, even though it's a 4-lander. So Rattle Chains is actively good because it can protect any other creature that we see here. If we have to play a slower game in which we're just depending on Rattle Chains with a Curious Obsession to maybe draw cards and back it up with an Aether Gust, that will be a plan that's on the table. So let's see where this goes. What I would ideally like to draw here will be a couple of 1-drop creatures to start so that Rattle Chains can protect those things and then start pumping out cards with Curious Obsession. But as it stands right now, I think I'll be okay with this. I would prefer to have 1 less land and 1 more creature, but this is a stable hand that lets us play Magic, so I will take this and shut up. But it is still pretty cool to see that, like, you know, of all the people in the world we could be playing against, you know, the first round here is going to be against one of our Magic kids. All right, so we got a Ketria Triome, which tells me absolutely nothing. And Spectral Adversary is actually a pretty good draw. So again, I like having these instant speed threats that could be counter spells. They could be more threats. You know, he has no idea generally what I could do as soon as I have access to 2 mana. So the fact that I've got 2 mana already here is pretty sweet, and it means I don't have to use my Rattle Chains, which is even better. So I don't have to play the Faceless Haven just yet. So I'm gonna go ahead, play this, and then I get to just Spectral Adversary from here. Okay. So we'll see if this is a removal spell. We'll see if this is a mystical dispute. What's he got going on here? Just a fatal push. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Looks like it is just a fatal push. Okay, sure. So we'll be done with that. We get to untap here. Let's draw another creature. We did, in fact, draw another creature, so that's pretty dope. And again, I'm going to hold off on Faceless Haven for just a little bit, because what I can do when I have the 4th land drop now is play Faceless Haven as the land drop, and then kind of play like threat into this to protect my threat, and then hopefully just super overwhelm him by the time that we're actually getting to worry about attacking with Faceless Haven. So if I play Faceless Haven now, it might tell him, hey, I need to be a little more careful about these things. But if I can just like jam threats down his throat, then this might end up looking a little better, you know? So the more we get to overwhelm, the better. So let's see what happens here. What form of removal do we have here? Vanishing Verse? Looks like a Vanishing Verse. It is. Okay, we are done with that. Let's untap. More creatures, please. Oh, you're a little late, but that's okay. I actively like having access to Spell Pierce and Aether Gust, because we do need things to say about cards like the Tulsa Mirrors, the Aether Gust covers, the Bring to Lights that Spell Pierce covers. Rattle Chains is also just, you know, pretty good at doing its own job. So what's this? A Mana Dork? No, we are casting Omnath. Okay, so I'll be glad to go ahead and Aether Gust that. That's not exactly a card I really... Oh, crap. I'm stupid. Shit. I wanted to respond with this before they made their land drop. I knew that was an option. Now I have to hope they don't have another Fatal Push. Oh, he didn't. Phew. Okay. Well, we got lucky there. That was not a great play, though. So ideally, I respond to the Omnath spell. Oh, that's actively pretty good too. And I'm not going to attack with Faceless Haven this turn. Here I get to finally start doing this. And Omnath will be annoying unless I draw a real counterspell. That's not one. But we have most other bases covered between Spell Pierce and Negate. So the fact that Omnath is going to be pretty annoying, honestly just kind of is what it is. Like, you have a resolved Omnath. But, like I said, most other bases are covered here, so that's a lot of life gain to have access to, and now he's going to add, like, a crap ton of mana. So if this is another creature, we might just have to go to a game 3. So what's this? Oh, dear. Bring to Light. Shoo! Spell Pierce! Scary, scary. Very scary stuff. Okay. So now we have access to this, and I'm just going to go ahead and start to get our attack on. So if he wants to block, that's actively pretty decent for us. If not, then I can just... Okay, sick. So I wanted to float the mana there because you never know if he's going to try to do something with the mana, like, I don't know, Flame Blessed Bolt or whatever. I get to negate this Dreadbore, and if he's got another big thing to do about this Rattle Chains, then... that's sad times, but yeah. So I am out of creatures, but he's also down to 1 card. So if we can draw a creature here, we can, then we might be in the good place. But let's see what happens, because honestly, all of his cards are pretty high quality. So if I can... That's not bad either. So I'm actually going to play the Wanderer first. Playing the Wanderer first has a very low but still existent chance to protect my creature from something. Abrupt Decay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, a very low chance to actually protect from anything, but, you know, worth a shot. Okay. So now he's at the 1 card, and he didn't buy Yorion, which is a little alarming. So let's see what happens here. Did we forget to buy Yorion? Is he buying Yorion this turn? He is buying Yorion this turn, I believe. Oh, and he's actually playing the land too, so he wants to play around my Mystical Dispute and or Geistlight Snare, which, you know, I obviously have. Oh, but I have 2. Nice. That plays nicely. So now you get to just go ahead, play your first thing, and that's going to get rammed into a counter spell unless you draw a land here. But even if you do that, I have 2. but I still would like to actually see like another threat here. And this is where something like another Rattle Chains would come in nice and handy, you know. But let's see what happens here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try to counterspell this. Shoo. All right, that went off. And if that's a card I did, I don't care about that. Okay, so this Geistlight Snare has probably run out of usefulness, but if I can manage a turn where Curious Obsession is able to do something here, then the Geistlight Snare might see some use yet, but I fear that I need more things to do. So let's see what he's cooking here. Yeah, almost anything he plays is going to resolve past another Geistlight Snare, so that's going to be pretty obnoxious to deal with. Not very happy about that. So what can we ideally draw? We can run creature. This is not looking like something I want to deal with. Shoo! Oh, Geistlight Snare, let's go! Geistlight Snare, let's go! Scary, scary. Oh, Geistlight Snare is saving us from all the world's terrible things here. Now, if I can draw like a negate or a creature immediately, I'll be very happy about that. Come on, creature. That is not a creature. All right. So we're going to go ahead and let him untap here. I really hope he just draws like one of these lands or something. Not a cycle land, because that's basically a real card. He'll just cycle like a cycle land. But anything that's like not a removal spell. Oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Oh no, an Omnath? Yikes. Yikes to the Omnath. Okay. So he's going to go all the way up to 22, and there's really nothing I can do about that. So let's untap. Oh, that's not bad, actually. Again, lots of life. Not much I can do about that, though. So I'll just take the 4. I'm not going to worry too much about that just yet. Okay. And I'm only going to pay the once, so this can just phase out. So we don't want to tap out of our Lofty Denial. I'm sure the Lofty Denial has basically no text here, but just in case. So let's see if this last card here happens to be some form of removal. It doesn't look like it is. Or if it is, he wanted to wait for the Obsession to be attached to it. All right, so let's try to draw our way out of this now. Will this work? Oh, I actually get to draw a card. Cool. What do we get? A Mausoleum Wanderer. Not great, but not nothing. So I'm not going to be able to out-aggro this Omnath, and the counterspell that we drew, the Lofty Denial, is really just completely irrelevant at this point, so I might as well not have a card in my hand. Okay, and I actually don't mind going to game 3 here, so there's just no chance that I'm going to outrun his card quality, but on the play, we get to do a lot more and different stuff from what we've got going on here. So I still like our setup. Everything that we had going on here is pretty good. And I am honestly just down to run this back. So we'll just go ahead and resubmit our deck. All right, so now we get to be on the play, which is super hype. Yeah, like being on the play with this. No! Okay, that's better. It's like being on the play when you actually have cards is pretty good. So here I get to go Mausoleum Wanderer, Spectral, holding up this untapped Supreme Phantom, which is pretty good. And if I draw a Curious Obsession, I'm pretty happy about that. But I'll also take a real counterspell too. And we can just hit the no possible play button. So let's see what they cook up here. Overgrown Tomb. Looks like we're just gonna catch the business end of a... Aw, man. Well, that's something I kind of wanted. All right, well, I guess I'll attack for 1. All right, so this is just an end of turn Fatal Push, but honestly, I'm still kind of happy to have gotten the additional 1 damage effectively out of the Mausoleum Wanderer. If he's going to have the Fatal Push anyway, then I guess I'll take this. So let's go ahead and just cast our friend here in, untap, draw a Spectral Sailor. On a Spectral Sailor, let's see if I've been baited for another copy of Fatal Push. I hope not. Oh, good. Looks like I'm actually safe from another copy of Fatal Push. Yes, yield. Okay. And even if this one's dead now, I can just flash in Spectral Sailor and just kind of keep the pain train going. So this is pretty much exactly what I want to be doing. It's just like hitting the ultra pressure button. So Vanishing Verse, same as the first, etc., etc. And I'm going to do this before we actually get to hit a land drop here. And that play, oh, I have Geistlight Snare. Sick. All right. So rinse and repeat. This time I would like to hit a land drop. Thank you. So now I have access to Aether Gust or Geistlight Snare. If I see something that's green to Celestis, that's actually difficult. He has not hit a land drop yet. I actually do not want to deal with him having another mana point. So if I'm walking myself into a land fatal push, then I get got here. But okay, good. Oh, a Lofty Denial. That's nice. Give me a land. Perfect, thank you. So now I have double response, so I'm not going to play the Supreme Phantom. I doubt there will be a reason for me to cast both Aether Gust and Lofty Denial. But if this ends up being a thing that I need to worry about, then I will be happy to have both in my hand. This looks like a... Oh, it's a Niv Mizzet. Yeah, that's fine. So I want to... Lofty... No, I want to Aether Gust this. There. So now you can decide where that goes. They want to put it on top of their deck. Okay. So we can just attack for 2, right? Let's think about that. If I attack here, that's 3 damage. And I can then have him at 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's enough mana for a counterspell. Yeah, let's actually do that instead. So this is lethal, assuming that we're only looking down 1 spell. Oh, that's nice. So now I can play the Spectral Sailor and a Lofty Denial. So if this is just like another copy of Niv Mizzet, then honestly, we don't really care. If this is a naked Supreme Verdict, then I can go ahead, flash in Spectral Sailor end of turn, untap, attack with Faceless Haven, go down to 2. If it is most other things, then I'm pretty good here. And I will just go ahead and get to counterspell this for the game. Sick. All right. So we will tell him GG, and there we go. So we'll be pleasant. We like our kids. 1-0 us. Yo, so we got round 2 and the die roll. That's hype. Ooh, look at that. Look at this. 1 drop, counterspells, obsessions, lands, snap keep. Life is great. Oh man, that is this is a thing to behold. A precious thing of beauty here. Man, I hope this isn't one of those matchups like mono red that actually sucks. Oh, it's going to be mono green instead. Pretty annoying. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I will happily shut up and take this. So this is going to be one of those things where I get to just go ahead and... Yeah, that's fine. So we get to just double obsession here because these are not decks that play like a crap ton of removal. And by the time they actually do get to kick in a bunch of removal, I'll be able to get this out of the damage range that they need me to be in. And I'll just, be drawing 106 cards along the way. Oh, this is even better too. So with the Brazen Borrower being in play, a lot of their best lines usually include Vivian, whatever the Vivian is called. I'm just gonna bounce the Werewolf here, and drawing 2 cards like this gives me the option to draw into Geistlight Snare. I didn't get it, but I had the option to draw it. So now if they just rinse and reuse the Werewolf, I'm pretty okay here. Burning Tree, less okay, less okay. I'm liking this less and less. Okay, Devotion 3, Old Growth Troll. Okay, annoying, but not the end of the world. So here I can just go ahead and... What do I want to do? So this is a 3/3 currently. If I pump using the ability, it turns into a 4/5. That means that it can trade evenly with the old growth troll. The other option is that I can just go ahead and... No, that's hands down the best option. Because if I don't... Now I kind of wish I had pumped it up once. So I can also remove the old growth troll using the spectral adversary, and that will let me attack into the burning tree emissary. The downside though is that they can just go ahead, untap, and cast Vivian and let old growth troll bite the ascendant spirits. I think I still like doing that though. Yeah, we're gonna do that. And this is going to remove you, and you get to attack. So if they don't want me to draw 2 more cards, they gotta block. And if they want to let me draw 2 more cards and untap and just like cast Vivian, then I get to untap and sick. I have another obsession. I get to untap with Spectral Adversary attacking their Planeswalker and a lot of other stuff to do. If this is a Hydra, that is also pretty obnoxious. But I can't really do anything about a Hydra, so be it. Vorinclex. That's a... Ugh. Alright. So we may no longer really be in this one. So we're going to take 10 and go to 10 here. Whew, what can we do about this? I can Obsession on the adversary, take them down to 7. Block so that I just don't die. Rattle Chain, Supreme Phantom, untap Supreme Phantom? Yeah, alright. That's a thing I have access to. So let's do that. Oh, you know what? I should have played the Supreme Phantom pre-combat. Actually, no. No, this is still fine. This is still fine. So, not pretty by any means, but just getting to block and live, I think, is good enough here. Okay. Oh, they have a Hydra. Oh my god, my Rattle Chains is going to be good. So they're going to try to fight my Ascendant Spirit, more than likely, with a giant freaking Hydra of Doom. And they might even follow it up with like a Nissa. So if they go down to... Oh, no, they're just using all of the mana. So X is 7, and I have to assume this X is going to be them trying to... Oh, they're just trying to play around Geistlight Snare, aren't they? That's fine. Rattle Chains is going to do its job. Oh, it's a 14/15. And Rattle Chains, protect my friend. This is definitely one of the scarier matchups, though, still. And Scavenging Ooze cannot eat a creature currently anyway. So, yeah, like, there's no creature to eat, so I don't really care too much about that. So, literally all I have to do is survive this turn. But the Vorinclex and the Old Growth Troll both have Trample. So, can I survive this turn? If they attack with all 4 of these creatures, they're going to get to draw the card, which is kind of whatever. I have to block Old Growth Troll with 4 toughness. And putting in Supreme Phantom will allow me, I guess, to block Burning Tree Emissary. I can take 9 and go to 1. Untap. Rattle Chains, Supreme Phantom, Spectral will be in play. I can play other Supreme Phantom. Sick. All right, let's do this. All right. Rattle Chains flash. Supreme Phantom blocks here. This blocks here. I take this and this. I go to 9. This is a 4/4, so this just trades. And I go from 10 to 1. Correct. Okay. Got it. Had to like quadruple check. I'm like, I'm so scared of them just like getting rid of me here. Definitely difficult. Why is this game so hard sometimes? All right, so let's play Bind a Monster and Aether Gusts. Cards we don't necessarily want include Spell Pierce. Granted, they do play a bunch of Planeswalkers, so Spell Pierce is not just the worst, but it's also, I believe, not like at its absolute best here. And then Ascendant Spirit is once again the worst of the creatures since they play like a million mana elves and things like that. So it's not at its best. Is Spell Pierce better than Ascendant Spirit here? The answer to that might also be yes. Yeah, I'm going to go with a hard yes, actually. Just countering Vivien when I'm on the draw is pretty important. So let's put in -4 Ascendant Spirit, -2 Lofties, +4 Binds, and +2 Gust. And that's going to be our sideboarding plan here against Mono Green. So we'll go ahead and submit this. Man, not gonna lie, that was a lot of power and toughness we were looking at there. So here I have a good stop for the first couple of creatures here. I'm on the draw. I'm not guaranteed to get another creature for some time, but I do have a Geistlight Snare. So if I can land a land and a creature, then honestly, this is not the worst gamble on the draw. I'm going to keep this because Bind Monster takes care of a first couple of mana midgets, and that'll go a long way towards making Geistlight Snare good too. So if I can like lock the first couple of these down, for example, then I'll be pretty happy to have access to early Geistlight Snares and things like that. So now this next turn, I would really just love to draw a creature. I'm sorry, draw a land. Okay. So is this Burning Tree nonsense? It is. Oh, ugh. Gross. All right. We might be going to a game 3, y'all. This ain't it. You know what? Yeah, let's go to a game 3. That's honestly, if I'd drawn a land, I think yeah, like even with the double Burning Tree Emissary start with them being on the play, if I draw another land there, I think I'm still pretty happy about our scenario because all we have to do is play a Spectral Sailor, and with the Bind a Monster, we had an enchantment and a creature to make Geistlight Snares. Oh, come on. Make Geistlight Snares good. What is this? All right. Spectral Adversary, go away. But getting to do this thing on the play, though, is a lot better. So I will end step. Still not very happy about having to do the mulligan, but let's draw a land here. Still going to do this. Going to try for a land so that I can use Geistlight Snare. Got it. Okay, much better. All right, so now we're coasting. And with Rattle Chains, Geistlight Snare, untapping, drawing another potential land here. Old Growth Troll is worth a counterspell. Yes, that's worth a counterspell. So let's see what else we can have access to here. Okay, a Rattle Chains. So let's go ahead, attack here, see what we have access to. A Mausoleum Wanderer. Okay, not bad. So provided I can draw another land here, what I'll get to do is cast like a 2-drop at the end of this turn. If they're going to try to do something cute like a Vivien, a Voracious Hydra to fight, that's actually fine. I can Rattle Chains that. They just make it a 2/3 and they try to fight. And I still don't need to use the Brazen Borrower here. I can just Rattle Chains. Sick. And they scoop. All right. 2-0, but not going to lie. After that game 1, I'm sorry, after that game 2, I will not say I didn't have a small heart attack. And that game 1 was pretty difficult, right? Like, we had to do a lot of counting. There was a lot of power and toughness on their side of the table, and oh my god, that was a very stressful match. But let's go into round 3. Yo, so we've gotten through a pretty good portion of today's video, and we're having a pretty good time today. To show your love, I'd like you to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit the little bell so you know when new videos come out, and read the video description. That's where you'll find all the good stuff, like today's deck list, contact information, and more. Speaking of more, we have a new Discord server. That link is in the video description too. We can talk about Magic or anything else. You'll find Patreon exclusive content, and you can submit your decks to be played on this channel. Thanks for listening and watching. Now let's get right back into it. All right, we got round 3 and a pretty acceptable hand. So we got 1-drop, double Curious, double Rattle Chains. Not exactly sad about that. So let's see what our opponent here is up to. A Swamp. Ooh, and a Counterspell to go along with all of this niceness. I'm with it. So let's see what they come up with here. So a Swamp could be really anything. So is this Arcanist? Is this just a Fatal Push turn? I'm going to test for a Fatal Push turn. Getting our creature pew-pewed. We are getting our creature pew-pewed. Okay. That's fine. So let's untap. And we've got 2 Rattle Chains though, so this is still like not even bad. I would prefer a land here, but if they try to be productive, then I'll get to go ahead and put in Rattle Chains and then untap and have Curious Obsession with Spell Pierce, so that'll be pretty nice. So let's see. Trespasser. Do I even want them to have that? This doesn't actually do anything to my plan. It just makes them have like a little bit of attacking going on with their plan. So I think my plan is better than their plan since I have a counterspell in hand. So I'm actually just going to flash in Rattle Chains and then just kind of let them have that. So this is a pretty big threat. So it's not like I'm completely disrespecting this thing, but I will be pretty happy to try to draw a land here and then just kind of see what I have access to. Land me? Land me? Damn it. So I've got Spell Pierce and Mausoleum Wanderer, so like this is not exactly like things are going super south. A Fatal Push will make me really sad, but I think most other things I'm Dreadbore. F in a chat. Okay. So here I guess I just got to flash in a Mausoleum Wanderer, and this will make it so that I can go ahead and untap, and yeah, that's unfortunate. Deck has so much removal. And since we didn't draw a land, I don't necessarily feel bad about not having, oh, there's one. Hooray. All right, let's do it again. Stomp. I don't mind casting Rattle Chains on this. Please leave my nice things alone. So now we get to go ahead and draw another card. Oh, yes, I'd like to use that ability. So we've got more creatures and counterspells if we get to untap, but this deck has a ton of removal, the red-black mid-range deck. So let's... Damn, another Stomp? Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and pop the Mausoleum Wanderer for this so that Stomp at least doesn't resolve and get to be a Bone Crusher Giant. So I don't get to stop them from killing the Wanderer there, but I do get to stop them from actually having access to another card. So that's not nothing. Okay, we're just mad forever. All right. I guess sometimes the universe looks out for you. Please stop trying to kill my things. All right, so here I can go double Mausoleum Wanderer and then start having a pretty respectable clock. I need to worry about what, Spell Pierce and friends? So they get to drain and attack me down to 7 here. So I do need to actually like be a little careful about my life total, but I think I'm still pretty okay here. What is this? A Chandra. Well, I have an excuse to use my Spell Pierce. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to do this first. So casting Mausoleum Wanderer first makes it so that if this is exactly a Fatal Push and I Spell Pierce here, then I don't leave my Rattle Chain super vulnerable to a removal spell. And that'll give me the room to cast this other Mausoleum Wanderer now. Let's go. All 4 obsessions. I am in there. Let's go. I think with access to the Lofty Denial, this is a safe attack. I don't think I need to leave one of these to block just yet. But man, that was hilarious. So I get to draw 2 more cards. Yes, please. Give me all the cards. Always yes. Just maximum card draw. Please and thank you. We also get to see another Mausoleum Wanderer, so that's pretty sick. So we are at 9. What I can do here 4, 5, 6 is what I'm currently attacking for. So I'm actually going to take this attack because if I put this on the table, they go up to 10 and I go down to 3. I can cast Mausoleum Wanderer, have this as backup, and absolutely not to that. So now I can draw just literally any spirit, and that'll trigger my Mausoleum Wanderers for lethal. Any spirit? Not quite. That's okay. So I can still just go ahead and attack for 4, 5, and leave these 2 back to block. I'm going to leave 2 to block just in case I don't have access to a in case they have access to a removal spell, because I don't necessarily mind my Brazen Bow or just kind of being defense duty here. Oh, Spectral Adversary too. Okay, cool. So I've got a lot of stuff, honestly, to say about this. So I'm going to keep the land in hand so that I can discard it to the Brazen Bower. I want Brazen Bower to bounce this thing. Enters the battlefield or attacks, yeah. So here I'm just going to untap and kind of chill. I don't need to press any buttons here. So the only way this goes really south is if they draw exactly like a lightning strike, because that gets out of Mausoleum Wanderer range. Dreadbore on my friendo here. Okay. I guess I'm just going to Spectral Adversary it out. So, okay, so that was really close though, because their attack trigger actually gets to do it twice, and I would go all the way down to 1. Are there creatures in the graveyard? Oh, no, then never mind, there weren't creatures. So they didn't have the option to drain, but that was still really close. So I get to have Icon of Ancestry. Do I even want Bind a Monster in this matchup? Not really. Aether Gust is okay. I don't want Grafdigger's Cage. I actually think I just want this Icon of Ancestry. And the card I want least is, I guess, exactly 1. Just of some creature. And I suppose Spectral Adversary is probably the worst creature. Like, I like all the counter spells. I like having access to negate. They have a lot of planeswalkers and removal spells. Is that the wave? So I want to play like maximum 1-drop so that I can get my Curious Obsessions going and keep them up as often as possible. Spectral Adversary is the worst of the creatures. Brazen Bower can bounce, you know, just relevant threats like the 3-drop. It can bounce planeswalkers. It can bounce the vampire tokens the Sorin makes. But is that honestly better? No. I think Brazen Bower is actually worse than Spectral Adversary. So Spectral Adversary can make Geistlight Snare really good, and they play a bunch of planeswalkers, so that is relevant. Spectral Adversary keeps my spirit count high for Icon of Ancestry, which is going to be pretty relevant. I'm going down to 26 creatures in the deck, or I'm going to go down to 23, but a bunch of those are going to be spirits. So I think I want to do it like this. -2 Bowers, -1 Adversary, +2 Negate, +1 Icon. And this is going to be one of those matchups that, like, everything's so removal heavy here that I really kind of just want like a second Icon of Ancestry, but I'll shut up and take this. So being on the draw here is going to end up being a little annoying because they do get to just like have the option to Thoughtseize me out here. I don't think that's where we're going with this game, but just in case it is an option that they have, you know. So this hand's acceptable. So I've got 1-drop, 2-drops, including Rattle Chains. Rattle Chains is easily the best thing I want here. Oh, see what I mean? So I don't know that I like Thoughtseizing out of their deck because the 2-life is actually relevant, but they did get to get rid of my Mausoleum Wanderer, so that's always a good start for them. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this island and pass. So the good thing about them Thoughtseizing there is that I do get to be nice and annoyed by the fact that they can just, that's kind of gross actually. I don't actively want that just yet. So I guess I just cast a Supreme Phantom and kind of hope to untap here. It does invalidate a lot of the removal, nowhere near all of it. They can still Dreadboard, they can still Fatal Push, but they can't Stomp and they can't do like any of these sideboardy crap like Flame Blessed Bolt. Their lands are really good right now too. So I'm under a little bit of real duress here. And I think what I'm going to want to do here is just pass. And this is kind of ugly, not gonna lie. So I want to cast Rattle Chains naked, untap Supreme Phantom, hold up Rattle Chains, and from there, those two plus Faceless Haven can protect me from most things. That's the plan, at least. And that plan works whether Rattle Chains dies on their turn or not. But I won't lie and say it's not ugly. So let's see what they do with this turn. So I take 3, I go to 14, and we are just popping that. Okay, so I'm going to use this opportunity to try to Rattle Chains here. If the card in their hand is like a Stomp or something, then I got. Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to get to untap safely with another Rattle Chains. So that's actively, ooh, that's not bad. All right. So we are doing the thing. So now I'm pretty well removed from removal. I can flash in Supreme Phantom, protect both of those with Rattle Chains. Or if they try to play a threat, I can Geistlight Snare. So overall, I'm fairly happy about that. And even this isn't that bad. So if they tap out here, they played a land, they played Seer Step Pathway, yes. So I can just make that a 4/3, block the token, or I can play my cool things. And I can use this to block the token, use this to block the land, and just untap with 2 threats in play and a counterspell. Yeah, all right, I like it. Ooh, that's great. So I get to just like have this up now, right? Like I'm holding up counterspell / Rattle Chains mana. And since this has vigilance, this does not disable my counterspell mana either. So I'm pretty happy about that. And if they decide to use a removal spell at Supreme Phantom, I can Rattle Chains, untap, have 7 on board. So that's a pretty good look, like this. And if this card happens to be like a Fatal Push or something else, then honestly, so be it. Sick, it wasn't. So it looks like we're in pretty good shape here because we can't die from here. Oh, they can't attack either though, so that's fine. So I get to do this. Boop, boop, boop. They're basically sacrificing their Blood Tithe Harvester because now they're under the I have to block or die abyss. Yes, chump block to my land. Wahaha. So that worked out pretty well. And I've got the Geistlight Snare kind of protecting me from most forms of really anythings. They can pay to any number of times, cast the thing. You may cast the targets without paying their cost. Okay, so I actively want them to pay the cost on this so that I can then counter the spell. If I pay for Geistlight Snare now, then what they can do is simply choose to not do this, and they can just, you know, what am I thinking? They can just play another spell. So here they get to target their spell, and I can then actually counter whatever they put on the stack. So I'm gonna do that. They actually cast their Dreadboard. Now I can counter it. And that's a handshake. Sick. So we move on to 3-0. Life is very exciting for just us. All right, so we got round 4. What are we working with here? I got a couple of counter spells, including a Spell Pierce, Supreme Phantom, Brazen Borrower, so lots of interaction. I really just want a way to either get card advantage or like one more threat to start swinging with. So I'm pretty good with this. A Spectral Adversary would be close to perfect. Llanowar Elves, Ruggy, and that was, oh no, are we getting Winota? I think we're getting Winota, y'all. All right. So this will be one where a bunch of flash threats are especially good, because I really just want to keep Winota the hell off the table. Looks like that's probably not going to happen this game. So we'll, I don't know, we'll see what happens. So let's untap here, cry about, hey, there's a Spectral Adversary I asked for. So if I actually get to untap and have things work out okay-ish, this is 5 mana. Oh, yes, 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 let's go. They actually cast a non-creature spell. Oh my God, are we actually about to get out of this somehow? So, oh, that's so lit. So, since they actually cast a non-creature spell, that means that my Geistlight Snare is now going to be live for Winota itself, and there it is. So now I can just do this. They can only pay 2, and I get to untap and start like either casting threats, especially if I draw another land. I really want to draw one more land so that I can Spectral Adversary, Lofty Denial, untap, start doing stuff. Come on, come on, come on. Dang. Still not the worst. So if this turn doesn't contain something really good, then I might actually be like kind of out of this. If they just cast a Winota, then I have to bounce it with Brazen Borrower. But if they do something like else, then I'll be pretty happy to just jam Spectral Adversary, untap, Curious Obsession with Lofty up, and I'll be pretty happy to just kind of work it from there. So let's do that. End step, Spectral, let's go. Give me the untaps. I don't have any mana for that. Sorry, Moto. Ascendant Spirit, not terrible, not great, not terrible. So let's do this. Try to hit a land drop. Or a Rattle Chains. I'll take a Rattle Chains so that I can play around Brutal Cathar. Didn't get any of those things. That's okay. So how much mana do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is not 8, so they have to... Oh, that's 8. Never mind. They have 8. Winota. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So what can I do about that? I can let them go into combat. Yeah, that's really the only thing I can do. I have to let them go into combat and then bounce Winota back to hand and then just kind of try again next turn. So, unfortunate. Ugh, this deck never runs out of them. All right. So I have to Petty Theft this now and hope that a Curious Obsession on Spectral Adversary draws me another counterspell, I guess. So if I drew a land, which actually means I should hold up Spectral Adversary's activation to phase Winota out. Yeah, that's a lot better. So if I can do it like this, then what I can do is Spectral Adversary, phase Winota out, since I can't Lofty Denial them out of Winota range. But that'll make it so that they're only attacking for 3 and not like 100. And then I can try to draw another Brazen Borrower to bounce Winota. That'll give me the option to... Yeah, that happens. That'll give me the option to at least play without worrying too much about the Winota itself. So I can do this. Adversary. I want to pay for this. Phase out Winota. And now if they try to attack, I get a block in. So Geistlight Snare, that doesn't do me any good. So here, I guess I just gotta try for what? Another land Adversary works. Another Brazen Borrower works. Yeah, all right. I'm drawing 2 more cards though, so that's not nothing at all. I didn't get any of those things. Oof, man, I didn't get any of those things. All right. Shit. All right. So I basically have to hope I'm not just ultra freaking dead here. Oh my God, I hate this deck so much. All right. What the fuck are you casting? Oh, you're casting a Kenrith. That plays pretty well for us because they only have 3 mana. So I actually get to use this. So that's nice because now they don't get to just give everything 100 million keywords, and they do get to spin 3 times, but honestly, spinning 3 times is, for what it's worth, I'm not going to go so far as to say like socially acceptable for us right now or anything, but I do get to at least play a little Magic here. What's that? That's just another Winota, so they're going to give 1 indestructible. Okay. So I don't mind if you keep spinning Winotas, that's fine. What do we get? We got a Grave Titan. That sucks. The Grave Titan's really annoying because it gains them like 1,000,000 life too. God, this is so gross. Is that another freaking Grave Titan? No, what are you? Oh, yeah. F in the chat. All right, so what are we looking at? 6, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I literally can't even block here because if I block, I still take 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, that sucks. We tried our best, y'all. I don't know what to tell you. So that was annoying. So against Winota, we have Grafdigger's Cage, we have Aether Gust. And I don't hate Bind a Monster because they can lock down to your turn 1 mana elves. Here, Ascendant Spirit is actively freaking terrible, and Spell Pierce technically had a use against the Chariot, but it's not actually good by any means. And the other 2 cards I want to take out here, I guess, are just Spectrals. Like, the Spectral Adversary gave me a couple of turns to play against Winota herself, but, like, as you see, like, a resolved Winota is just, like, basically the end of the universe in this matchup. So, -4 Ascendant, -2 Pierce, and then -2 adversaries. We want Cages. We want Bind a Monsters, and we want Gusts. So that's going to be our sideboarding plan here. And let's hope that getting to do the Cage Bind a Monster things to them while on the play works out pretty well, but I can't really do anything with that. Oh, come on, Magic, no, not like this. Oh, God, I'm not going to play Magic today, am I? All right. I think we're going to be going to 2-1, y'all. God, this is bad. All right. And man, for a 22 land deck, we've been mulling a lot. So yeah, we're pretty much screwed here. This is so bad. And Voice of Resurgence, come on. Will you please piss off? All right. Well, looks like we're losing. I'm gonna go ahead and just move to the next round. We don't need to play this anymore. All right, last round. Let's see if we can do a little better than getting our teeth fucking kicked in here. And we got 4 cards with 3 lands, and that is much better. So I will at least do my best to be really excited about this here. So a bunch of 1-drops, which I am actually kind of happy about. Against Steam Vents, so probably Phoenix? We'll see. But I'm not exactly sad about the idea of having like Mausoleum Wanderer against this deck. Mausoleum Wanderer can get pumped by Ascendant Spirit, Mausoleum Wanderer, and then starting on the following turn, I can start doing things like pumping Ascendant Spirit, having Geistlight Snare, and doing all of these things with Mausoleum Wanderer as kind of backup against spells. So if this is just going to be like a removal spell, I'm good with this. That's a lot of why I didn't want to play the Ascendant Spirit first here. So now I've got 2 Ascendant Spirits. Don't really want to play both. Mausoleum Wanderer, Ascendant Spirit. So now if they just try to jam like an expressive iteration, I don't know that I mind. Oh, a thing in the ice. That's fine. So less fine? Question mark. Duty untap. Rattle Chains is nice. All right. So here I don't mind just going ahead and like jamming a little bit of damage here. If they try to point a removal spell at the Mausoleum Wanderer, I'll be pretty okay to just like protect with Rattle Chains and move from there. Otherwise, a Geistlight Snare will make me relatively happy. I don't appreciate Thing in the Ice getting to do its thing, but I also can't really do anything about that yet, so it's kind of what it is. So let's see what happens when they untap. This is the expressive. Okay. So, hello, expressive. We were just talking about you. So I will be pretty happy to counter that. They've got 3 cards left in hand. So if they want to point a removal spell at the Ascendant Spirit here, I think this is the point where we actually just kind of let them. And they go down to 3 counters here. Hall of Storm Giants, that's fine, I guess. Can't do much about that. So here's my Spectral Sailor. Into the untap. Nope, we are casting an opt. Okay, that's whatever. You can have your opt opponent. I would rather have the damage from Mausoleum Wanderer than try to counter stuff like opt with that. So if I can untap and start attacking now, opponent, that would be awfully nice of you. Thing in the Ice does have the potential to be really annoying, though. It's also a lot of why I'm not playing so that I put mana into this. Like, that's really low on the priority list when their opponent has, like, a looming thing to do right now. So let's go ahead and start to get our attack on. So I can go ahead, get my attack for 2 here. I can also just threaten to be drawing cards with Spectral Sailor, so they do have to respect that. And if they try to point a spell at Spectral Sailor and their hand is kind of light, then what I do have the option to do is just kind of like maybe pump here, protect with Rattle Chains, and hope that this doesn't flip like too well, you know? But also if they just like cast 2 spells here and get to flip the Thing in the Ice, then we are kind of like pod racing here. So, oh, they're just casting an Arclight Phoenix. Oh, that's fine, actually. Yeah, sick. So here, I actually can just like do this. So I don't know that I wouldn't rather be doing this, but I guess I can untap instead of casting Rattle Chains for any reason here. No, I'm going to cast Rattle Chains. I would still like to use my mana pretty effectively here. So the idea here is that I can go ahead, get my attack on it, still be pretty excited about that. But if they start trying to do Thing in the Ice things, then Rattle Chains gets bounced as well. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have actually cast the Rattle Chains. So here I can attack with Ascendant Spirit and Arclight Phoenix. I'm sorry, Ascendant Spirit and Mausoleum Wanderer. Doing this, oh, that changes things. Oh, that changes everything. Oh, man. But now they can block this. So, ooh. Yeah, I'm going to attack with these 2. So if I attack with these 2, and they block Thing in the Ice to this, then I can just pump it to a 4/4. So that's not really a block that they have option to take. If they attack with, if they block Arclight Phoenix to Mausoleum Wanderer, then I can just go ahead and flash an Ascendant Spirit. And yeah. And if they block Spectral Sailor with Arclight Phoenix, I can flash in Supreme Phantom. No, I think I'm just going to attack with these 2. Yeah, I think I like that as like the safest attack. So it is a little bit of a bitch made attack, but I don't really want to walk myself into just like getting 3-turned by this. And the more I can deny them the ability to play Magic, the better. Okay, so here I'm just going to put in the Ascendant Spirit. So now these 2 will trade. And so now if they have a couple of spells to rattle off here. Well, first let's see what they even are. Fiery Impulse. Targeting what? My Ascendant Spirit? Yeah, sure. I can't do anything about that. All right, so we're not going to try to do anything there. Gross. So they're going to get to deny my attack here, but I can draw a Brazen Bower. Come on, deck. Draw me a Brazen Bower. Damn. All right, well, gonna try it. Is this not a spell? Oh shit, not a spell. All right. Well, I still don't need to press any buttons here. How much can I get away with? I mean, the actual answer really should just be not a lot. But if this is going to be like a treasure cruise or something, then I don't know, we might get away with one. let's do, wait, you're 2-3. Okay, so you are leveled up. Let's do this. If they flip now, then I will at least get to flash into Spectral Sailor. And then I'll have a bunch of spirits to protect stuff with. So this is still okay-ish. What are you casting for all of that mana? And the removal spell is going to end up not actually killing anything anyway, so. All right. Spell Pierce. All right, so that's got no text. But they do get to go ahead and deny my attack by just casting a spell. So a little annoying, especially since I didn't actually get to draw a Brazen Borrower. That would have been really sick, but they still have to have a lot. Whoa, am I actually going to get to use my Spell Pierce? Am I going to get to use my Spell Pierce on turn 106? Oh, it's a Lightning Axe. Never mind. I'm not using my Spell Pierce on that. So here I'm actually just going to cast Supreme Phantom. Yeah, I'm just going to cast Supreme Phantom. So this way I can just double Spectral Sailor, untap, do whatever I want really. And the only way this plan really gets busted is if their turn is exactly like Expressive Iteration. If their turn is exactly Expressive Iteration, then yeah, that's going to be pretty freaking annoying. But if this is just like, oh man, how much stuff are we doing? All right, cool. So not that much stuff. I like you not doing that much stuff. So I don't mind having a 3-turn clock here, and they still need another land if they want to try doing things with another thing in the ice. Yeah, I don't care about that at all. All right, sick. Let's go. So now they're stuck taking 5 here, and I am still fairly happy about this. 2-turn clock. Doot. Let's have our opponent probably get real sad. And I actually am going to play the Ascendant Spirit, and this is going to be mostly as a blocker here, but I want the blocker to not have to have Rattle Chains in play. This way, if they draw a land and fire up Hall of Storm Giants, because I'm at 13, they don't get to just attack me for lethal. And if they try to play something like, I don't know, really anything, I have Rattle Chains to protect myself. So that's pretty baller. And that's exactly what I was talking about here. So they're going to get to attack with both, which is fine because I have a blocker, so I don't really care. I already have 5 damage on the table. So now I get to just go ahead and block this thing. I take 7, I go to 6, and our opponent is pretty dead. So we're going to slide over to game 2. And they already know I have the Rattle Chain, so whatever, I'll just cast it, I guess. But game 2 against Phoenix, things I want. I do want all of these Mystical Disputes. I also kind of want Bind a Monster. Because, like, Bind a Monster keeps Thing in the Ice tapped. Thing in the Ice doesn't actually exile itself. So if you put a Bind a Monster on Thing in the Ice, not only can it not block my Ascendant Spirits, which is cool, but it also doesn't get to do the thing where you're just like, hey, I removed the last ice counter, I flip my thing, and now my thing can attack. No, it's still tapped. It just happens to get bigger. So that's still an option that's totally on the table for us. And cards that I don't necessarily want, Lofted Denial is not as good because I've got Mystical Dispute. Like, it's just play a better counterspell. Other things that I don't want, I guess Spectral Adversary is kind of bad. It's not like terrible by any means, but it's not great. And I don't mind siding out 2 of these guys' Light Snares, or do I want to side out 2 Ascendant Spirits? I think siding out 2 Ascendant Spirits is actually better. I could also keep in Spectral Adversary in favor. Yeah, I'm actually going to take out all the Ascendant Spirits instead and keep in 2 of these Spectral Adversaries. So the flying threats are obviously really good against Thing in the Ice specifically. And, you know, they block Phoenixes, they phase out Crackling Drakes, all of that good stuff. So I would rather have those than an Ascendant Spirit that requires me to tie in mana against a deck that's playing a crap ton of more removal. And I could side in like Grafdigger's Cage, but to be honest, I don't really know that that's necessary. It's great against exactly Phoenix, but like my deck isn't that bad against resolved Phoenixes. So like as we saw earlier, even when they got to like just cast a thing and have it on the table, like a single Spectral Sailor plus a Lord means that we don't really care all that much. So we want Disputes, we want Binding Monsters, we don't want Lofties, we don't want Adversary, and we don't want Ascendant Spirit. There. So let's take these things out. We want these things in. And let's see if this ends up feeling a little better. So obviously we won that game, but every time we win a game against Phoenix, it always feels like it's kind of like on the skin of your teeth, you know? But now we got triple Mystical Dispute with a Spectral Sailor and a Curious Obsession. That's actively really good for us. So now they get to just like do this, and I'm not even going to cast anything during my turn. So, you know, they basically took this 2 damage for no reason. To be fair, if my draw was either an Ascendant Spirit or a Mausoleum Wanderer, then this Steam Vince looks pretty good. But now all they're doing with it was Opt, and to be honest, I just do not care about their Opt. So let's see if they go ahead and just cast a Thing in the Ice that I can very happily Mystical Dispute. And do I walk my Spectral Sailor into a removal spell? I think the answer is yes. So unfortunately, it is my only threat, which is sad times, but oh, Faceless Haven, not bad. I don't hate that. So I'm going to go ahead and play Snow-Covered Island here. I'm not going to play the Curious Obsession. A, I don't want to walk my Sailor into removal, but also if their draw happens to be exactly Thing in the Ice into Mystical Dispute, I want to have both of my Mystical Disputes up to account for that. Then I can just untap and just do the thing as I please, you know? So let's see. Oh my god, it's nothing. It's nothing. Y'all, they didn't have anything. That means that I'm still not going to walk this into removal, though. I'm just going to hit them for 1. And starting next turn, assuming they do nothing again, or they walk into a Mystical Dispute, I'll be pretty happy to just Curious Obsession, and then that's honestly fine. I was going to say I'll be pretty happy to Curious Obsession and then literally just back it up with Mystical Dispute for full cost against a red spell. But here, if they're, like I said, just going to be trying to play like this ultra slow game, I've got a bunch of counter magic here. So having this Rattle Chains is actually pretty nice too. It plays around them just really just most of their forms of participation, and I will just counter a no, I will counter that. So that does mean that I have to wait a turn on the Rattle Chains, but I would much rather actually use my Disputes productively. And here I'm still going to get to play a lot of magic, right? Like I get to Brazen Bower if something dire hits the table somehow. I get to Rattle Chains with Mystical Dispute backup if it's something like I ultra care about. What is this? Another Phoenix? Yeah, this is fine. So here I'm going to get to bounce it with Brazen Bower, cast Brazen Bower, untap Obsession, and then have Dispute. Rattle Chains can't protect a Bower, but this is still, like, fine. Okay, so now I know that they were interested in attacking, which they have not played a land. Okay. Oh, it's their end step. Never mind. And I actually don't even mind the land draw here. So let's see what I draw. So we're going to get to go ahead and draw a card. I would like the card to be a spirit so that I can double spell, like cast something and protect it with Rattle Chains. We didn't get to do that, but I am aware that they're at 10 life. Since they're at 10 life and I have a Rattle Chains in hand, Faceless Haven plus Rattle Chains, even through a removal spell here, which it turns out they had, is still a 2-turn clock. So I'll be pretty excited about that. That does mean that I'll just be jamming. Because now if they have like another removal spell here, I'll be pretty happy to just jam a Mystical Dispute at it. Oh my god, is this a Brazen Bower? It is. Oh, opponent, you're going to be mad for days. So if they have a red removal spell, now they get me. But, oh my god, yeah, you're just going to be mad forever. I'm sorry. So now if I get to draw something else, I'll be really excited about that. Okay, so I guess it's good that we're able to attack and they're at 10 because I am drawing hot garbage. But that's okay. They are really, really on the back foot here. They got a lot of work to do if they want to survive. They can go ahead and cast the Arclight Phoenix on defense mode, the one that I put back in their hand. So that is totally an option they have access to. and a red card can go ahead and remove Rattle Chains. So they are not SOL by any means. But if I draw something useful here, like a Bind a Monster, let's go. That plays really nicely. So now I get to do this, and a Fiery Impulse will kill the Faceless Haven, but hey, sick. So they scoop it up, and we get 4 and 1. Awesome. All right, so now that all 5 rounds are done, we had a pretty good time today. So we got to do a lot of really cool stuff. We faced a really varied field of decks, right? Like, we didn't play the same deck twice in our 5 rounds. And that's one of those things that I really actively love about Pioneer. Companions are not omnipresent in this format. We just went 4-1 pretty easily with a deck that costs what, like maybe $100 total. And if you're playing this on MTGO, other than the Brazen Borrowers, the rest of this deck is like $20. So this is a very easy obtainable deck. It is mostly just side gradable from the Pioneer Challenge deck, because, you know, all you have to really pick up is a Snow-Covered Island, 1 Brazen Borrower if you want to pick up exactly the list that I'm playing today. The Spectral Adversaries, but those are only like $4 or $5 a piece, even though they're mythic. And the rest of the deck, oh, I'm sorry, Ascendant Spirit too, but those are literally like a quarter. And for the most part, this is just something that's really cheap. It's easy to obtain. It plays very well. It's nice and aggressive, and it has a lot of game against most of what the format's doing. So I really would recommend this deck to anybody who is looking to explore yet another Spirits archetype. We did get absolutely dumpstered by that Winota deck, but you know, sometimes it's what it is. Like, we had a lot of game on the draw against Winota with a relatively subpar hand, because even though they got to, eventually they did the Winota thing right, but we still had lines to discover. We had cards that played really well. We even got to use our Spell Pierce, which usually has little to no play against that deck. And you know, our Spectral Adversaries were able to do a little work against that, even though they were able to kind of eventually keep Winota on the table and do the Winota thing. But, like, you know, that's what the deck is designed to do. We still did our job in that matchup. And honestly, like, an ugly mull to 5 1-lander after mulling to 5, you know, what can you do? But honestly, those things aside, the deck ran relatively smooth. We did have to mulligan a bunch, but that'll just happen sometimes. You know, not every day can be perfect. But we got to overcome a lot of the mulligans that we had by just virtue of making our cards count the most. Like, Curious Obsession dug us out of a lot of heavy holes there. The 1-drops provided a great amount of aggression. We got to have a lot of flying threats. The counterspells did great work. We were able to use the combination of Spectral Adversary and Brazen Borrower to control our opponent's boards a lot of the time. We kept our threats safe with Rattle Chains, and I think Spectral Adversary actually got to do that once too. I don't remember, but either way, good stuff. And our sideboard was, I think, fairly well tuned to what the format is doing. The Bind of Monsters and Mystical Disputes came in a couple of times. Aether Gust and Negate did their jobs. Grafdigger's Cage had the potential to do its job in a couple of those matchups. And there was a match where we really wanted the Icon of Ancestry, and while we didn't see it, we ended up winning that red-black match anyway. So overall, great stuff. I like this deck. Again, pretty high on the recommend list. So that's going to be our video today. We've had a really good time with Mono Blue Snow Spirits. If you like what you're watching, as always, just make sure to click like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see y'all on the next one.